It's a good meeting.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to, this is a special meeting of the Haverford Township Board of Commissioners, September 27th, 2016. Take the roll, please, Mr. Secretary.
Mr. D'Amelio?
Here.
Mr. McCluskey?
Here.
Mr. Siegel?
Here.
Mr. Lewis?
Here.
Mr. Holmes will not be here this evening. He is still in New York, will not be back in time.
Oh, good for New
Mr.
York.
Garrity's not here yet. Mr. Wexler?
Here.
Mr. Oliva?
Here.
And Mr. Connell.
Here. Deputy Chief, will you lead us in Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, 5-2, I guess.
At this time, we're going to open up the floor for public comment. I'll go with this side of the room. Does anybody have any? When you come up, please, name and address. Mr. Sandstrom?
Roy Sandstrom, 61 Colonial Road. My understanding is that the question is this change order on the new building. And so I was just curious how a basic utility like the gas line,
Which one did I sign?
change orders.
I didn't hear him, I'm sorry. I didn't hear him.
His question
I didn't
is,
hear
how
right,
did this
I'm
become a
sorry.
change
That
order?
Why the gas line, basic utility, became a change order in this
Pay
project.
attention. Thank you. Anybody on this side of the room? Okay, Mr. Sandstrom, we will answer that while we're in session on a discussion.
I don't remember. It's been so long.
Okay.
There must be-
Do any commissioners have any discussion at this time regarding the agreement and then the relocation of the electric?
I have the same questions that he had. Why is this a
Okay.
change order if it's a utility?
And Mrs. Woodop?
We have the construction manager here.
Yep, absolutely. I'm going to go to you to go through to them.
Okay, involving the charge for PICO for the gas for the new building. Initially, in the allowance for the budget, $25,000 was put in for utility fees, because those are pretty common. And the initial design of the building was just to come off of Manoa Road, 15, 16 feet in from the property, and head up and put in the gas service. But subsequently, we found out that the pressure for the gas in that line at Manoa was insufficient for the equipment being put in the building. So the closest place to get the pressure for that line is farther away from the property. And that's where the $60,000 comes in, $60,000 and change.
So we didn't know that line, ahead of time, we didn't know that line on Manoa Road didn't have that pressure, the pressure necessary? We didn't know that ahead of time?
Correct.
I'm a little concerned by that, I have to admit. Tell me what is the norm in these circumstances? Do you ever check for pressure to see, do you do a preliminary?
Well, I'm doing some forensics on this, or
Well, like, in other words, let me just expand on that. In other words, talking to PICO and making them understand what you're doing there, and so that you don't have situations such as we have now, where we now have to spend over $60,000 of taxpayer money to remedy this problem.
Before you answer, just introduce yourself, please, so everybody knows who we're talking to.
Bob Montaigne, I'm the architect for the project. We submitted to PICO in April the application for the service. At that time, they told us the pressure that we needed was available in the area. And that's as much detail as they gave us is in the area. It wasn't until August in August that they said in the area means 600 feet away from a site on Darby Road and not Manila Road.
Yeah, but
And
I get what you're saying, but I guess the question I have is, why would not ask, what does that mean? And where in the area? Why wouldn't you ask that question? In the area, it could be anywhere. And it is, apparently.
yeah, dealing with PICO, we asked the questions. They give us very little information until they can process the application.
Did you feel it was enough information for you?
I can't-
To be honest with you, for it to be in the area, it seemed like it was, you know, they said it was available in the area, and that's meant that we could design our equipment around that pressure.
The reason I say that is because we rely on your company to go through all of this, because we can't, so that's why we reach out to you. And if you're getting insufficient information, then that falls back on you to continue to seek information until it's satisfied by you. But if you feel you have sufficient information, I come right out and say that, then that falls on you again, and the change should be your responsibility. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Yeah?
unfortunately, when you're dealing with the utility, they don't divulge information. They don't let outside sources know where their gas lines are. They're protected for security reasons, they say. So we rely on them to give us information. They had the pressure that we needed in design, and they said it was available. And that's what we had to go with.
I get that, but if you elected me as your commissioner, and I said to you, yep, our budget looks pretty good this year, I don't think we're just going to raise it or not raise it, and then come December, when we voted on a budget, and we raised it 10%, would you not come to me and say, what? So I didn't get enough information.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I just wanted to jump in and make a point of clarification, and that is, these are change orders, they're outside of the scope of work, but they are covered in the budget under the contingency line item. So the contingency is put in the budget for any unforeseen events, things like this, and I think that that maybe we can speak to where we are with the contingency line item, but
It doesn't, I'm sorry, Lori, but this doesn't make it right, in my eyes. It doesn't matter if it's budget and contingency. To me, that doesn't matter. I think that we didn't dot the i's across the t's here. That's what I think. You cannot build a building and not know where your gas lines are. I understand for security reasons and whatnot. Buildings are built every day all over the city of Philadelphia and the surrounding areas. You're going to tell me that PICO doesn't cooperate with builders? I find it hard to believe.
I think PICO, actually, we should reach out to PICO and ask them why.
Well, I mean, they tell you if you're going to dig, to call them.
Okay.
I mean, there's lines you got to worry about. You have to know where things are. This is, to me, just something's not right. And I'm concerned. I've been concerned about soft costs. I've been concerned about rising costs, and this is just something that, unfortunately, I don't like.
Does anybody else have any questions?
Well, I came in late, Chris, but we do have a serious problem down there with the what's going on as far as the scheduling and everything else. I don't know if you can arrange to have Pico and this gentleman battle it out, but in the meantime, we have to get moving on this because of the fact that we have a lot of things in line there, and they're not going to be fulfilled. One of them is Election Day, for instance, but another is the stadium, and we gotta move forward and settle this agreement somehow or other through negotiations. But we can't sit on this much longer.
No, I agree.
And,
agree with
I'm sorry, I keep
Commissioner
pointing
McGarity.
out. But the other thing I did want to indicate to you is that we did have a conversation with the architect after the mechanical engineer had indicated that they had put in a service and meter application, had just gotten a general idea that the pressure was available, there was an assumption that it was the line in front of the building where the surface, or where the adequate pressure is, but it wasn't. So we're extending this main with the high pressure line. We had a conversation with them. What are the options? If we don't do this, what are the options? And the options would be, and correct me if I'm wrong, we would have to look at doing some redesign of the MEP facilities that are there. The high efficiency units that we have on the building require a higher pressure just to fire the units. And we have a gas-fired generator. And initially, when we started doing the design, it was supposed to be a dual-fuel generator. But because we opted to pursue the demand response program with Constellation for when they have projected brownouts for energy, the utility would contact us and say, can you put your building on the generator? So you're taking that load off of the system, okay? And the township gets paid for that. They get paid not only for the fuels that it uses, but it gets paid for the number of hours that the generator operates. So we went on the demand response, we signed up for the demand response program for this new building, but we were told that we couldn't operate the dual fuel system, which has diesel and natural gas. The diesel operated generator got knocked out of the program because of fuels. It's going to put a carbon footprint on this, and the idea was that, you need to have a cleaner burning fuel. So we had to switch the whole thing over to natural gas, and I'm sure that had something to do with it. So the bottom line is to take something beyond this now, just moving forward, and I'm not speaking to how we got here, but just moving forward, we would either have to redesign the mechanical system, which would be delays, further delays.
And more costs. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's just one thing I want you to consider when you're doing this.
No, I get that. I understand all that, and I agree. But I agree with what Commissioner Connell said. If we were to tell taxpayers, guess what, your tax increase is only 2.5%, and then the following week we say, guess what, we screwed up, it's 10%. Let me tell you something. People are going to want answers. They're going to want to know why. And it's the same thing here. This doesn't, it's like taking medicine that you don't like. It doesn't taste good. And I hope moving forward that we have no more surprises in stored with this building. No more.
And I do want to say one thing for Pico, and that is that the initial price came in at almost $90,000. And the designer from Pico actually lives in Haverford Township, and I contacted this gentleman, and he worked with us and got the price down to where it is now at $60,500. So Pico's been cooperating with us.
Can I ask you, does PECO have any plans in the future to run a high-pressure line on Manoa? I know in my neighborhood they've put high-pressure lines and they're in the process of putting new meters in, and they're moving current residential customers from the low-pressure line. In fact, our township engineers was done a couple of months ago and was moved to the high-pressure side. Mine was done 4 or 5 years ago when I had an upgrade to my furnace. So they're going along, and even in the residential areas, they're switching customers from the low-pressure lines to the high-pressure lines. I would hate to see them in 2 years come down Manoa Road with the high-pressure line to feed the residential district that we paid $60 to run an extension over to Darby Road. If they have plans in their 5-year plan, I think in our contract with them, I'd like to see a reimbursement if we have to dig up Manoa Road within the next couple of years to put the high-pressure line that they're upgrading their system to anyway. In the township, they're upgrading to the high-pressure lines all over the place. So it's only a matter of time before it has to go down Manoa Road, if there's a low-pressure line already there.
I have absolutely no problem reaching out to
Yeah.
you.
No, I agree. I mean,
Pico
that's
and looking for some kind of recovery of costs if
Right.
we do any kind of a main extension on Manoa Road over the 5-year period. That's a great idea.
Does anybody have any further questions? Okay.
Good.
Anybody have any, I guess while we're here, no, okay. All right, then we'll just go with, I do. Does anybody have any questions about B, relocation of the Scadium electric service?
Can we hear the explanation of that one as well?
Yeah,
Yep,
I mean, that's.
Absolutely. Because I
let's-
do
let's
have a
go
couple
with that
questions
now.
about language in here, that's all. Go ahead.
The issue with putting in a new service for the Scadium Electric, which is 40 years old, the architects and site engineers, KCBA and Nave Newell, who were contracted to do the design, were also contracted not to do a site survey on the site. And they were instructed to instead rely on a survey done by Pannoni for the township when a three-story building was being considered for that site in lieu of the two-story building we have now. And that three-story building was actually placed farther away from the ball fields. So the site survey done by Pannoni never took into consideration anything on the ball fields because it wasn't going to be impacted for that particular survey. When KCBA and Nave Newell did the new design got approved, where the building sits now is right next to the ball field. And there's the Scadium electric line runs from an existing pole on the south of the fields, runs across that south line, and then up along the west or the east end of the ball fields to the Scadium. And the excavation for the building is within a couple feet of where that line's going to be. So the line cannot stay where it's at to put in the new building because of the excavation. Now, it was considered possibly tapping into the line somewhere else, but because the line's 40 years old, we could try to tap into it, but there could be other problems. So we came up with a design to put in a new pole and go from that pole straight across the field to the Scadium, to existing manhole in the Scadium. And the advantages of that is, first, it gives a new service to the Scadium with the electrical service is 40 years old. And when we opened up the manholes, there was a lot of deterioration on the wires in the manholes. Another reason is that the existing line now, like I said, it goes the circuitous route along the south side and then up along where the first base line is. Mm-hmm. If in the future somebody was going to build something, put in new bleachers or something like that, that line could interfere with it because there's only 15 feet between the base lines and the fence and where this electric line goes up. So we felt it was best just to put in a whole new line. And in the future, if somebody has to find that line, they could stand at the pole, look at the manhole, and they know exactly. It goes straight up through there. For 40 years from now, you'll be able to find that line without any problem. And but the line does have to go.
Did you say he's going to go across the field?
Yes.
Across the football field?
Yes.
Yeah, when you say first baseline, are you talking the big diamond or the softball diamond?
The one on the
Oh,
softball.
the softball diamond, okay.
No, just talk to Chris.
Okay, so I'm just trying to think if it's going to cross over the football field itself, over any of the actual playing fields.
Yes.
The wires that will be suspended above the playing fields.
In the ground.
Right, okay, it's going to be under the ground, to the manhole, or the manhole, gotcha.
Yes, it
Yep.
goes from a new pole.
Yep.
Chris, I want
Still coming off of Columbia Avenue.
Yes.
Road.
A new pole, it'll go straight to the manhole, and we've
Can we? That's what I'm asking.
arranged with Parks and Rec.
It's a legal matter.
We have a period of time
Kelly.
to put that
Kelly
in
would tell
where
you.
it's not going to interfere with too many games. We were told none, I guess.
I hope not,
Yeah, but that's,
to be honest with you.
Oh, I know, it's popped all the time, pops all the time.
Larry, can you just say that?
No, I was just telling Mr. Connell that in the short time that I've been the manager, we've had a number of power issues relating to that line at the stadium. So it does come at a good time for us to get that addressed as well.
Thanks.
Larry, can I just ask you your opinion on this, what's going on right now?
For this, absolutely, it's a necessity to address to address both problems for the stadium and to address the footage, the footprint
Right.
issues.
And wasn't the electric line what you mentioned when you did your report at our last meeting? The relocation of the electric line, wasn't that part of your report at the last meeting? I thought it was.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
So that's,
Yeah,
That-
it's been, we've been trying to do something to minimize the cost of this, but, and, you know, to try to leave it in there, but it just doesn't work out. There's just no way.
and in doing,
We'd have to do shoring on construction to leave this electric line in, and the shoring would end up costing more than the new electric line. And you'd still have a 40-year-old electric line.
right. And I don't know if this is more for the architect or for you or both, but in doing projects like this, how common is this, are these two types of situations that coming up, or, you know, where you need a change order to do something with utilities, essentially pre-construction? Was it common? Or
Well,
not
it's-
uncommon?
It's common to move utilities. You know, when you're doing, you know, you're on a site that's been used for 100 years, you run into a lot of things, but it's common that you have to move utilities. If, an example was the gas line for the stadium. Nobody knew where that was, Pico, no one, because it was put in so long ago. And we had to move the gas line.
That's got to get done so the parking lot can get done. Is it?
The gas line did, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's done already, yeah.
Mr.
And just
President,
so you know, that line was probably put in when Wilton Bunce was commissioner, and they put those HUD lights in all around the stadium there. That's probably when they put that line in across the field.
I mean, I understand the line has to be dressed. I get that. Sure.
Mr. President, can I ask that we go in executive session?
For
I think I want to discuss a legal matter.
council?
If it involves potential litigation issue, you can take it into executive session.
I have a question also on some language. Can I talk to you about that in there too?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, at this time, we'll go into an executive session. All right, this meeting is now back in session. Thank you very much for your patience. And then in moving forward, pardon me?
If I may,
Oh,
the
we-
board did hold a brief executive session specifically in regard to a potential litigation issue in regards to this change order and the contract that we have with the construction manager and the architect. That was the sole purpose of the executive session, and now we're back. You guys need to make a motion on these two change orders, I guess.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll entertain a motion on...
Mr. Chairman, may I make a motion to authorize the township manager to execute a contract with Pico for the needed gas main extension to provide service to the new municipal services building in the amount of $60,570.51.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Leva. Take the roll, please.
Mr. D'Amelio?
No.
Mr. McCluskey?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
No.
Mr. McGarity?
Yes.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
Mr. Oliva?
Yes.
And Mr. Connell?
Yes. Item B of number 4.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to authorize the township manager to execute a change order for the relocation of the underground electric service to the stadium in the amount of $59,653.81.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Oliva. Take the roll.
Mr. D'Amelio?
No.
McCluskey?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
No.
Mr. McGarity?
Yes.
Mr. Wexler? Mr. Oliva?
Yes.
And Mr. Connell?
Yes. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.